The Seeds of Death. Now, I need to try and not get this confused with The Seeds of Doom. The Seeds of Doom is a Fourth Doctor story from the 1970s featuring a Cryonoid. The Seeds of Death, second Doctor adventure featuring the Ice Warriors. So, The Seeds of Death was the fifth serial of the sixth season of Doctor Who, first broadcast in 6 parts from the 25th of January to the 1st of March 1969. Now, in it, in the kind of late 21st century, mankind has pretty much abandoned space travel. I mean, we had our rockets, we had our heydays, we had our spaceships, but now they've been replaced with a system called TMAT, which essentially allows uh, humanity to transport people and supplies anywhere in the world, anywhere across planet Earth, and even to the moon, to a moon base. So because of that, we stopped doing kind of rocket travel and space travel, mainly because we got uncomfortable with life here on Earth. However, when TMAT suddenly stops working, a man named Commander Julian Radnor, played by Ronald Leigh Hunt, and his assistant Gia Kelly, played by Louise Pageau, they set out to find a man named Professor Daniel Eldred, played by Philip Ray, who owns, or rather operates, a small exhibition in a local museum dedicated to the defunct act of space travel. A place where the Doctor, played by Patrick Troughton, his companion Zoe Heriot, played by Wendy Padbury, and Jamie McCrimmon, played by Fraser Hines, have recently just landed. They landed in this exhibition and thought, well, we'll check it out. It looks like fun. Looks interesting. So, so the so the commander Gia and Daniel Edward try to talk about it, but the professor is kind of unwilling to act because they still don't value his work. So the Doctor, Zoe, and Jamie make a trip to the moon base on their behalf to try and figure out what the problem is. Now you could ask why didn't they just use the TARDIS, but the Doctor says, but as the Doctor and Zoe point out, we could easily overshoot it and then end up several million years in the future. Better do something a little more retro, but a little more accurate. So they head to the moon where they find out what the problem is with TMAT. Now, it turns out that the moon base has been invaded by a group of ice warriors. And they have hijacked TMAT, killed most of the crew except for a couple. One manages to survive named Phipps, played by Christopher Cole, and a man who's ultimately working with the Ice Warriors named Fusham, played by Terry Scully. Now, Fusham doesn't really want to work with the Ice Warriors, but he figures it's his best means of survival. I mean, he knows they're going to kill him anyway, so he figures, might as well make myself useful. And even when he's given a chance to go back to Earth, he fears doing so because he'll be tried as a traitor. He doesn't want to go through a whole trial and end up getting executed for helping the Ice Warriors. But what do the Ice Warriors ultimately want? They want to use TMAT to transport a series of seeds to Earth. Go all over the planet, and what the seeds do is that when they're disturbed, they activate and essentially release a foam into the atmosphere. Now, what this foam does, or what it's supposed to do in the long term, is it's supposed to reduce the oxygen amount in our atmosphere. Basically, reduce the oxygen in our atmosphere so much that it becomes uninhabitable for humans, and humanity will either die off or leave for another planet. And by doing this, the Ice Warriors can then take over because the oxygen or the kind of air quality will be closer to what they have on Mars. So it's up to the Doctor, his friends, and the crew in order to find out a way to stop all this. Now, I will say one thing about this. The story, it is actually pretty good. I mean, it's a kind of typical base under siege tale, but it also has kind of a view of not putting all your eggs in one basket. In fact, at the very end of the story, that's pretty much what they kind of react to it. When everything's kind of done and everything's defeated, they're like, well, we can get TMAT up and running again. What, why? It's like, Well, Team Out worked perfectly well. Please don't put all our eggs in one basket. At least have a set of rockets on standby in case anything goes wrong. It's like nothing went wrong this time. It was hijacked. And they ended up in a whole argument about it, which strangely enough, it reminded me of the 2018 episode Kablam. Whereas at the end of that, they kind of said, after everything that happened, oh, we're going to switch over to using a more people-oriented company rather than a more machine-oriented one, which I remember a family member of mine saying they didn't particularly like. They felt they should have kind of kept it the same. But strangely enough, I was reminded of that. Kind of, it shows that humanity, for a large part, we can be remarkably stubborn, saying that the old technology still worked, even if it was hijacked, and then saying, well, we shouldn't completely rely on it. We should have a backup just in case, which is a nice route to go down. Also, I will admit, especially at the end of part 5 of this particular story, that must have been a lot of fun for the props department or special effects. Because with the phone, there's a part towards the end of part 5 where it's discovered that what they need to wash away the foam is water. Water is what subsides the foam. And the doctor finds that Jamie and Zoe have gone to the weather station in order to try and make it rain, and because the Ice Warriors are stopping it from making it rain, and he ends up quite in the midst of the foam, which is supposed to be sucking the oxygen out of the air, and that had to be a whole lot of fun for the people who were making it. Like, we need as much bubble bath as you can get. Bubble bath. Evil bubble bath. Yes. Like, okay. Just a whole load of bubble bath all in one place. I mean, Patrick Troughton literally soaked in foam. That that looked like a whole lot of fun, but yeah. It does also have some great tension to it. I mean, I will admit, before the BBC really had colour to play with Doctor Who, and we could actually see that the Ice Warriors were green. I will admit the design of them is pretty cool, but I did think that the early Ice Warriors kind of looked like someone with dark sunglasses and spiky hair. I mean, that's just what I thought going for a brief period, until at least they had colour to play with. That's kind of what they looked like a little bit with black and white. But I will admit, this is still a cool story. I mean, doing a story where we're essentially fighting against two types of technology, kind of seeing the pros and cons of both, and they do manage to do a great Under Siege story with it. I mean, is it the best? No, probably not, but you know what? Still pretty good. Now, with the Space Pirates, which was the next serial, currently missing, this is technically, at the moment, the penultimate second Doctor story. Well, at least until they can either find or recreate the Space Pirates. So, yeah. What do I think of this as a whole? I think it's a pretty good one. I mean, the next classic Doctor Who story I hope to be reviewing is Carnival of Monsters, which I'll upload when I get the chance. So, I'll let you know when I do Carnival of Monsters, and until next time, I'll see you there. But if you're watching this from the playlist, from my Classic Doctor Who playlist, then the next one up should be the War Games. So, either way, I'll see you there. Anyway, until then, I'm Ozzy.